Hey everyone, welcome back. As most of you are aware, we in New Zealand are currently maybe 8 months behind the rest of the world when it comes to COVID. And that seems to include the political issues that come with COVID as well. I'm sure that in your home nations, you have also dealt with political conflicts when it comes to COVID response. And this may be causing certain kinds of divides within your own nations. It's certainly that way here, and it's really incredibly upsetting to witness. We can criticize society all we want, we can criticize governments all we want, and the powers that be all we want. Today I want to be focusing on you as an individual, how fear may be shaping how you're feeling about this current situation and how you're responding to it. This isn't about pro or anti anything. This is about you and how you're feeling, how you're reacting. It can be so hard when it seems like the world around you is crashing down and you can't do anything about it. I hate seeing my nation like this. It's absolutely devastating. But I understand that I can't just wave a magic wand and it's all going to go back to normal again. I often enjoy watching content from Diné elder Wally Brown. I find that the wisdom of his content, the stories and the teachings that have been passed down to the generations of the Diné have absolutely inspired me and got me to think about life from a very unegotistical perspective. So one of his stories that he had shared on his YouTube channel, which I feel has a lot to do with today, is his story about the time when men and women, the people, had fought. So very quickly, here is Wally Brown sharing the story from the Diné teachings.
In the oral history and the traditional teachings of our Diné, there are certain events that are given special consideration and considered very important for us to always remember. And the one story that comes to mind is the division of the sexes, is what they call the event that took place, and which was a time when the men and the women divided because they couldn't be united on the issue of what gender is more important, male or female. And so there was a separation, and physical separation occurred where the women were on one side of the river and the men were on the one side of the river as well. And so it was that they were divided by a great river. And for a couple of years they tried to survive. But during that time they created confusion, doubt, loneliness, and selfishness. And during that time, they created a physical problems that was brought about by the sexual perversion of the two sex groups, male and female. And they brought into existence and gave birth to all kinds of monsters that turned on them and began to destroy the Diné. And this is where the story of the two boys that had to finish to destroy these monsters. The story is told, and sometimes they call it the hero twins. Now, Ye Izgana and Tobatis Chain had to come and destroy those monsters. And the monsters were really social issues in all of the different places of society. In our language, the term is Achedajdikan, and Achedajdikan is sometimes the way they refer to it. Don Haya Ashkonda is what they say. It is not good for us, because in division among the people, there is never any means to ever solve the problems.
The main aspect that I took away from that story that Wally shared is the fact that when there is division, there is no means to solve the issue. Throughout human history, where things like this have happened, where there's been division, where there's been segregation, the list goes on. The main purpose of these different groups weren't to solve the problem and to once again unify. Their purpose rather was to gain power over the other group. Now, obviously, I'm generalizing because there has been so many different issues and there are different lessons to learn within those different situations. But generally speaking, when there is division, there is no means for unity. Another story I want to share is an old Cherokee legend about the two wolves. Many of you probably know about this story already. An old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. "A fight is going on inside me," he said to the boy. "It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego." He continued, "The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too." The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." I think this particular story is more prevalent than ever right now. We can certainly look at the government and the media and say, you know what, they're fear-mongering, they're dividing society. But like Bob Marley said, liberate yourself from mental slavery. At the end of the day, you are responsible how you respond to things. If you're feeling so much fear that's, for example, being pumped from the media, and this is something that you continuously visit, this is something that you feel through every fiber of your body, then that is the wolf that you're feeding. Just the other day, I had taken my son Oscar to the playground. There was just myself and another family there. Oscar had gotten a little bit too close to this other boy who was around the same age, so about 4. The boy had run off to his parents screaming, absolutely terrified, and yelled at Oscar saying, "Get out of my bubble." At this stage, Oscar didn't really hear him, and he was running after this boy, thinking that this boy was having a running race with Oscar, and wound up close to the family. The family had scolded Oscar and said, "You need to leave." Now, this playground was massive. I was actually on the other end of it, so it took me a little while to actually process what happened, and I'd called Oscar over. The family wound up leaving, and I could absolutely sense that this family was so terrified. And look, I have no idea what their situation is. Maybe they have someone who's very high risk at home. But I thought, my son is 4. He doesn't understand what's going on and he just wants to play. I would tell him when we go out and about to be respectful of people's spaces, or what we say in New Zealand, bubbles at the moment. I was sad for this boy who was absolutely beside himself, terrified. I have a lot of compassion for that family. I feel really sad that this is how they feel when they go out and about. Of course, it's important to exercise common sense in a pandemic, but there was so much fear, and it reminds me of that story of the two wolves. Have you experienced this kind of fear, whether it's fear that's been produced by the media, where you kind of tune into the news and you hear doom and gloom every single day? Or are you more fearful of the vacuum, if you know what I mean? Again, I'm not going to go onto either side of the fence. That's not what this is about. This is about you and your two wolves. So I'm going to go through just a couple of self-reflective points for you to look at how you're dealing with the situation and how you might want to change how you deal with it. Or maybe you're going to look at the situation and think, I'm doing pretty good. A few months ago on my channel, I had featured a value from the Anna Zazi Foundation, which was the Forwards and the Backwards Walk. The Forwards Walk being the walk of love, of joy, of beauty, of bravery. And the Backwards Walk being the walk of fear, of anger, of resentment, of hatred. The list goes on. Grandfather Whitebear taught this concept to me as the one and the two-hearted. The one-hearted being the forwards walk and the two-hearted being the backwards walk. The one-hearted is always within love and the two-hearted is always within ego. The thing about being one-hearted or two-hearted or walking the forwards walk or the backwards walk is that they are both choices. These can differ from day to day, from situation to situation, and we fall between both of those different aspects. The key is to notice it. The key is to notice how we are walking, and when we notice, then we can correct ourselves. We can then choose to walk the Ford's walk if that's what we want to be. I notice all the time when I'm flipping between the two walks. I notice when I'm walking backwards, and it's a really yuck feeling. It brings me down and it affects everyone around me. It affects every aspect of my life. What you put out there comes back to you tenfold. So notice how you're walking. Today, are you walking that forwards walk, or are you walking that backwards walk? So the story from Wally Brown about the men and the women in society dividing themselves, creating monsters which in modern times could be political and social disruptions and conflicts. Well, these monsters, they were created by the men and the women not communicating to solve the issue and then unite once again. And as a result, it just drove that wedge even larger. So when you're engaging, if you've got a certain opinion and that opinion's really strong, do you engage to prove a point, or do you engage to solve a problem? Social media can be great for connecting with like-minded people on the other side of the world, but on the contrary, it can also be a platform where we can become keyboard warriors and cancel each other and that kind of stuff. It's easy to get caught up in an online argument with a stranger. It's not like you have to face them, and the argument can be over within 5 minutes. The problem is this helpful? Is it helpful to go online and if you see a post that you disagree with, to pull your claws out and to jump into the conversation and have a big old argument? Is it worth it? Maybe you don't do this, but many people do, and I see it all the time through my newsfeed. It has become such a negative place to be. At the moment, everyone is so on edge, everyone is so titchy, and it seems like any tiny little thing is setting people off, whether this is on real life or whether it is online. I feel that there are absolutely other ways to make a difference without going on social media and just stating your opinion, which of course you can do, but my question again is, how is it going to help? Especially if engaging like this through social media brings you down or shrouds you and your environment with negativity. Is it really worth it? So another Native American take here was, I came across this post, it was like on Reddit ages ago, and I can't find it anymore, otherwise I would post it on here. But very quickly the story went that this young Native had felt really angry about who had become president at the time. And this young person had gone to their elders and expressed their frustration about the situation with this president that they didn't like. This elder had said, oh yes, this president is a clown. And the young person felt really good that the elder had agreed with him. However, a little while later, this young person had thought a little bit harder about what that elder said. This president is a clown. It then clicked within this young person. Clowns within their tradition is seen as something very sacred. Clowns in their tradition is seen as a mockery of oneself, a mirror, if you will. And then this young person understood exactly what the elder meant. And that was, what can you learn from feeling this kind of animosity towards this situation? Or i.e., what can this young person learn from feeling so angry towards someone whom they didn't want to become president? So what can you learn about dealing with this situation right now? If COVID, for example, is dividing your society, or there's something else in your life, what can you personally learn about yourself? We cannot control the outside environment, but we can control how we respond to it. Obviously, as someone with emotional dysregulation, every now and again I can feel incredibly upset about things. But when I do these videos and I write the script that I write, it really helps me to reflect on myself too. So as I'm saying this, I'm actually reflecting on myself at the same time. So you and me both, We're going through this together. We are doing this exercise together. Anyway, you guys, I hope that you liked this video, and I hope that the 3 self-reflective questions can help you discover which direction you want to take yourself. This is not about following a leader. This is not about looking towards an outside source to fulfill you. This is about discovering who you are on your journey back home. This is your time to empower yourself and realize your true worth and value in this world. For now, though, you guys, I hope you have a good day, night, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you guys all again for the next video. Bye!